The Varkon Dominion had crossed many star systems, crushed many planets, and ruled half the galaxy. To them, Earth was nothing special. It was small, distant, and not even part of any known alliance. Their scouts had returned with a short message. Primitive planet. No threat. The report was enough to make the Varkon leaders relax in their chairs and smile with pride. They believed the invasion would be simple, quick, and glorious. But not everyone agreed. General Kaylor, the oldest strategist in the Varkon Dominion, stood in front of the council with a serious face. His scales were darker than other Varkons, his eyes sharper. He had seen more wars than anyone in the room, and something about Earth bothered him from the beginning. He tapped the holoscreen. Strange readings appeared, flickering like broken signals. These energy spikes come from Earth's surface, Kaylor said. They are not natural. Something is hidden there, something powerful. But the council members laughed. One of them waved his hand. General Kaylor, humans cannot even leave their own planet, he said. What will they do? Throw stones at our ships? The room filled with loud laughter. Kaylor did not laugh. Their technology moves fast, he warned again. They learn in years what takes other species centuries. Do not underestimate them. The council ignored him. They made their decision. The invasion would continue. The Varkon fleet, more than 1,000 warships, began its journey toward Earth. But on Earth, something very different was happening. For decades, humanity had been preparing for this moment. They had studied alien signals, alien attacks, and alien mistakes. Earth may have looked quiet from space, but under that silence, a giant secret was waiting to wake up. The name of that secret was Project Snare. When the alien fleet entered the outer edge of the solar system, every human base, every underground command center, and every hidden facility received the same coded message. The trap is opening. In a deep underground chamber beneath Alaska, Commander Rourke watched the holographic map. Thousands of red dots appeared. Enemy ships. Huge, heavy, and deadly. A normal planet would panic. But Earth was not normal anymore. Humanity had learned to hide its strength better than any species in the galaxy. He stood up and spoke calmly. Prepare the field. Far above, in space, the Varkon fleet continued its advance. Their ships glowed with blue engines and sharp weapons. They expected Earth to send a few jets, maybe nuclear missiles, maybe radio warnings. They expected fear. But Earth remained silent. No broadcasts, no missiles, not even a greeting. This silence unsettled General Kaylor. He looked out from the bridge window as Earth grew bigger. A blue, peaceful, calm world. Too calm. It is a trap, he whispered, but his officers dismissed him. Our shields are at full power. Our weapons are ready. Humans cannot harm us. Kaylor did not trust their confidence. When the first Varkon ship entered Earth's upper orbit, their sensors began to glitch. Screens blinked. Numbers jumped. The ship's engine hummed unevenly. Strange interference detected, one pilot said. It is nothing, the commander replied. Ignore it. But the interference grew stronger. Then something impossible happened. Every ship in the front line slowed down, without any command. Their engines kept running, but their movement stopped as if the space around them had turned solid. The Varkon commanders shouted orders. Pilots tried to restart the drives. Engineers checked the reactors. Nothing worked. It felt like an invisible hand had grabbed the entire fleet and held it in place. Kaylor's eyes widened. This is no interference, he said. This is a cage. Below them, Earth began to change. Lines of golden light appeared on the planet's surface, spreading like veins. They traced across continents, oceans, and mountains. Within seconds, Earth looked like a giant glowing circuit board. One of the Varkon officers gasped. What is that? What technology is this? Kaylor felt a chill run through his body. Project Snare, he whispered. He had studied the old galaxy legends. There were stories about humans, stories most species laughed at, stories that said humans were dangerous when silent, stories that said humans could build traps inside their own planet. And now those stories looked true. A massive energy pulse erupted from Earth, but it was silent. No explosion, no fire, no bright flash. The space around the alien fleet rippled like water, then froze into an invisible net. The ships were trapped. Engines at full power still could not move a single meter. Weapons charged but refused to fire. Shields remained active but useless. The fleet was suspended in a perfect stillness between Earth's gravity and the invisible snare field. Like insects caught in a spider's web, General Kaylor stared at the frozen fleet in horror. They did this without leaving their planet, he whispered, without a single ship, without a single missile. Earth had turned into a silent hunter. Slowly, small ripples spread through the snare and tightened around the Varkon ships. The alien officers panicked. They shouted commands, but nothing responded. The entire fleet was helpless. Kaylor lowered his head. "We warned the Council," he murmured. "And now we pay the price." This was the moment Earth revealed its true power. It was not weak. It was waiting. It was watching. It was bait. And now, it had caught its prey. General Kaylor had faced many battles, but nothing compared to the cold stillness that now held the Varkon fleet in place. Hundreds of warships floated above Earth, but none could move even 1 meter. It felt as if space itself had turned thick, like invisible stone walls were closing around them. On the flagship's bridge, alarms flashed in silent red waves. Screens showed long lines of errors. Weapons offline. Engines unresponsive. Scanners blind. The younger officers kept shouting at their consoles, but the controls did not listen. They pressed buttons harder, almost in panic, as if force would break the invisible cage. "It is impossible," one shouted. "It makes no sense," another cried. But Kaylor stood still. He understood something they did not. "This is no attack," he said quietly. "This is design, a design made by humans." His words made the bridge fall silent. Below them, Earth continued to glow. Golden lines stretched across oceans like giant scars of light. Hundreds of cities pulsed with strange, synchronized energy. Even the clouds moved in perfect patterns, forming spirals that spun like slow storms. One of the Varkon captains looked terrified. How can a planet do this? Where is their fleet? Where are their weapons? Kaylor shook his head. That is their fleet. That is their weapon. He pointed at the glowing Earth. They built the planet into a trap. Meanwhile, deep under Earth's surface, inside a massive underground chamber, Commander Rourke watched the Varkon fleet struggle. His face was calm, but serious. His officers stood around him waiting for his orders. "Phase 2 activated," one officer said. The room dimmed as a massive core machine powered up. A soft vibration passed through the chamber, and for a moment it felt like the Earth itself was breathing. Rourke nodded. "Hold them in place, no damage yet." A glowing line on the holographic planet map thickened. Let them understand they are not in control. In space, the trapped Varkon ships shook slightly as Phase 2 tightened around them. Not enough to break anything, but enough to remind them they were caught inside something far stronger than their entire empire. Kaylor felt the vibration through the floor. "What was that?" one officer asked. "The trap is adjusting," Kaylor said, like a predator changing its grip. He could see fear spreading through the crew. Varkons were strong, confident warriors, but confidence died quickly when strength meant nothing. Their weapons could not fire. Their shields offered no safety. Their engines, once loud and proud, now hummed weakly like frightened animals. An officer suddenly gasped. "General, look at the lower sensor." Kaylor walked over. The display flickered, then stabilized. It showed shapes rising from Earth's atmosphere. Human ships, but they were unlike anything the Varkons had seen. These vessels were smooth, silent, and dark-colored. No loud engines, no shining metal. They looked almost like shadows given form. Each ship moved without sound, sliding through space like a knife through water. How are they flying without thrusters?" one officer whispered. Kaylor felt a cold shock. "These ships were made for close combat, not long travel. They waited for us to come." The human ships slowly circled the trapped Varkon fleet. Not attacking, not firing, just watching, studying, judging. One of the Varkon officers began to breathe fast. "Why are they not attacking us?" Kalor answered with a heavy voice. "Because they do not need to. They already won." The human ships began sending signals, not in the Varkon language, not in Galactic Standard. It was a simple universal code. 3 pulses. Pause. 3 pulses. Pause. "What does it mean?" a pilot asked. Kalor closed his eyes. "It means, we see you." On Earth, Commander Rourke watched the human ships lock position around the alien fleet. His officers looked excited, nervous, and proud. They knew this moment would change history. "Do we send them a warning?" one officer asked. Rourke shook his head. "No. They received their warning long ago." A silent tension filled the room. Then Rourke raised his hand. "Begin communication to their leader." In space, every Varkon screen turned to static, then cleared. A human man appeared. Commander Rourke. His uniform was dark, his eyes calm. There was no anger on his face, only certainty. He spoke softly, but his voice carried weight. "You have entered restricted space. The bridge fell silent. You ignored our earlier warnings." Kalor stepped forward. He felt like the human was speaking directly to him. "You came with weapons raised. You came with pride, but you did not come with understanding." The human leaned closer. "Look below you. That is Earth, and this is your last moment to realize something important." Rourke's voice dropped lower. "Humanity does not hide because it is weak. Humanity hides because it is patient." Then the screen went dark. On the Varkon bridge, no one spoke. Even the ship lights seemed dimmer. For the first time in their history, the mighty Varkon Dominion understood that they had walked directly into a power far beyond their imagination. Kalor's claws tightened against the command. "Consul, we must talk to them," one officer whispered. Kalor shook his head. "We came to conquer." He looked at the glowing Earth below. "And instead, we have become prey." The snare tightened again, slow, careful, and controlled. Earth was not speaking anymore. Earth was waiting, and the Varkons realized too late. A silent planet is the most dangerous kind. The Varkon fleet hung in silent terror above Earth. The invisible snare held every ship like a giant hand wrapped around their metal hulls. No matter how much power they pushed into their engines, the ships did not move. The snare was cold, firm, and unbreakable. General Kalor stared at the glowing lines on Earth's surface. He had fought many enemies, but never a planet that acted like a living mind. He turned toward his officers. "We need to understand what this snare is. Humans cannot create something like this alone." But the officer at the sensor console shook his head. "General, this energy is not alien. It matches human signatures completely." Kalor felt the air freeze around him. Humans built this? Humans designed this cage? He had expected nuclear weapons, missiles, fighter jets, but a planet-sized trap? That was not the work of a primitive species. That was the work of someone preparing for something worse than war. Before he could speak, an alarm flickered across the screens. The human shadow ships that had been circling the fleet started changing formation. Slowly, calmly, they drifted closer. Their dark hulls absorbed light rather than reflected it. They did not look like machines, they looked like creatures. One Varkon officer swallowed nervously. "They are surrounding us." Kalor nodded. "Yes, and not to attack. They are forming a barrier. But why? We are already trapped." Kalor did not answer. He understood one thing clearly. Humans did not want the fleet to escape, but they also did not want anything else from outside coming near. This trap was not only for the Varkons, it was also to protect Earth from the rest of the galaxy. Suddenly, every Varkon screen crackled. Static spread, then faded. A new message appeared. 3 words. Simple and calm. Project Snare. Phase 3. Kalor's eyes widened. "There is a Phase 3? He had no time to respond. Earth changed again. The golden lines across the planet's surface brightened. Cities, mountains, oceans, every part of Earth pulsed like the heartbeat of a sleeping giant. A beam of soft white light shot upward from Antarctica, splitting into thousands of thin strands that wrapped around the trapped fleet like threads of light. The Varkon ships shook violently, not breaking, just being scanned. Deep, deep scanned. Every weapon, every shield, every piece of technology was being copied, measured, and analyzed. It felt like Earth itself was learning everything about them. An officer panicked. "They are reading our entire fleet," Kaylor whispered. "They are learning how to defeat us. Permanently." Back on Earth, in the underground command chamber, Commander Rourke watched the scan lines dance across the hologram of the Varkon ships. His officers moved quickly between stations, eyes focused. "Hands steady. Energy flow stable," one reported. "Human ships in position," another said. "Snare field holding at full strength." Rourke nodded. "Begin the reveal." A low sound filled the chamber. Not noise, vibration. A deep hum that carried through the floor, through the air, through the stone walls. The humans felt it in their bones. Earth was waking up. In space, the Varkon fleet saw something terrifying. The oceans on Earth shifted color. Not blue anymore, but deep silver. The clouds twisted into spirals that glowed faintly, and at the center of it all, a massive circular pattern appeared on Earth's surface. It looked ancient but alive. A symbol no alien species had ever seen. "What? What is that?" A Varkon officer stuttered. Kaylor stared at the giant symbol. It stretched from Africa to the Indian Ocean, a perfect geometric pattern glowing with soft silver light. "It is a shield," Kaylor said. "A shield hidden inside the planet." He turned toward his officers. The humans built their home into a fortress. Suddenly, a new figure appeared on every Varkon screen. Human.female calm. Her name tag read Admiral Celeste Ward. She did not smile. She did not raise her voice. She simply spoke the truth. "You were warned not to enter Earth space." Her eyes were cold, steady. "You believed we were weak." She leaned slightly forward. "You believed wrong." The Varkon officers trembled. Even Kaylor felt something heavy press against his chest. Humans spoke with a strange confidence. A confidence born not from pride, but preparation. Celeste continued. "Earth has watched the galaxy for many years. We learned from your wars, your slavery, your invasions, and we prepared." A hologram appeared beside her. It showed ancient alien ships attacking weaker worlds. Then it showed Earth observing, studying, learning from every conflict. Kaylor whispered, "They have been watching us for generations." Celeste's voice became sharper. "We did not ask for war. We asked for space, peace, distance. You ignored it." She pointed downward, not at the Varkon fleet, but at Earth. "And so you entered the snare." The screen went black. No threat. No countdown. No screaming. Just silence. A silence that felt louder than any weapon. On the Varkon flagship, fear spread like cold fire, not because humans were angry, but because humans were in control. Completely, silently, perfectly in control. Kaylor gripped the edge of the console. "We must speak to them. This is our only chance." But before he could send a message, the snare tightened again. The trapped ships creaked and groaned. Their hulls strained. Not breaking yet, but close, very close. Kaylor felt his throat go dry. "They are giving us one final warning." He looked at Earth. No longer a planet, but a silver-lit predator watching its prey struggle. If the Varkons did not choose wisely, Phase 4 would come, and Kaylor feared Phase 4 meant only one thing: extinction. The Varkon Dominion had never known fear like this. Their ships, massive, sharp, armed with the best weapons in their empire, hung helpless above a small blue world that should have been easy prey. Instead, Earth watched them like a quiet judge, deciding their fate with calm patience. General Kaylor stood at the center of the flagship bridge, trying to breathe evenly, trying to stay in control. But the air itself felt heavy, as if Earth's unseen grip reached into his lungs. Below him, the planet pulsed with silver light, the giant symbol stretching across continents slowly growing brighter. It was alive, responding to something deep under Earth's surface, something ancient, something powerful. A young officer trembled as he checked the readings. "General, the snare field is tightening again. Pressure is increasing on every ship." Kaylor's voice was low. "How long until our hulls break?" The officer swallowed hard. "Minutes." Maybe less. Shouts filled the bridge. Engines not responding. Shields failing. Weapons offline. No escape route. It was chaos. But Kaylor raised his hand. Quiet. His calm voice cut through the noise. The officers stopped shouting and stared at him. Even fear paused. We must send a message, Kaylor said. A plea. A surrender to humans. No Varkon ever imagined such humiliation, but it was the only choice. Kaylor turned toward the communication console. Prepare the signal. Open all channels to Earth. The officers nodded quickly and moved to their stations. But before the signal could be sent, the bridge lights flickered. Every screen went black. A new symbol appeared. Simple, white, and perfectly shaped. The same symbol that now glowed across Earth's surface. Then a human voice spoke. General Kaylor of the Varkon Dominion. Every Varkon froze. It was Admiral Celise Ward's voice. She continued. You came with weapons. You came with pride. You came with destruction in your heart. Her tone did not rise. It did not shake. It was calm, steady, and cold like quiet water. You ignored our warnings. You ignored your own general's warnings. Kaylor lowered his head. He had warned them, but they had refused to listen. Celise continued. Now you stand above the one world you should have feared the most. The bridge lights brightened. A hologram appeared. Earth in full glowing form, wrapped in silver and gold, with human ships orbiting like silent guardians. This is your last message from us. Kaylor clenched his fists. He already knew what was coming. You are not allowed to threaten Earth or any human settlement again. Then her voice dropped. Further, the snare closes now. The screen shut, off. And the trap snapped. The snare crushes the invaders. Terrifying vibration shot through every Varkon ship. Metal bent, beams cracked, hull plates folded like soft fabric. The snare field, now fully alive, squeezed the fleet with unstoppable force. One by one, Varkon ships imploded silently, crushed by invisible walls of pressure that moved with perfect precision. There were no explosions, no fire, just quiet metal collapsing into tiny pieces, as if the snare did not want to waste energy. Hundreds of warships vanished in seconds, crumbled, folded, erased. The Varkon officers screamed, their voices echoing across the flagship bridge. Some fell to their knees. Others tried to flee, though there was nowhere to go. Kaylor stood still, his eyes hollow. He knew resistance was meaningless. This is justice, he whispered. Human justice. Another vibration shook the bridge. Panels ripped from the walls. The windows cracked. Gravity fluctuated. The snare wanted to crush the flagship too. But something strange happened. The pressure stopped. The crushing force held still. Kaylor felt the air lighten. Then the screens flashed again. Admiral Celise Ward appeared, but her tone was different now. More severe, more final. General Kaylor, you warned your leaders. You tried to stop this invasion. Kaylor nodded slowly, defeated. Celise's eyes narrowed. You survived because you understood us. Remember that. The snare released the flagship. Just one ship out of thousands. But it could not leave yet. Earth was not finished. The snare field turned into a tunnel of silver light that wrapped around the flagship, holding it steady like a long spear. The ship shook as engines restarted automatically, pushed by human-controlled forces, not Varkon technology. A loud hum filled the air. General, an officer cried, we are being thrown out of the solar system. Kaylor let out a long breath. So this is our punishment. In a massive burst of white light, the human snare launched the flagship into deep space like a stone fired from a giant sling. Stars became streaks of silver. The ship shot past planets, past systems, past the borders of Earth's reach. Humans did not destroy Kaylor. They sent him home with a message that would change the galaxy forever. The galaxy learns fear when Kaylor's damaged flagship, returned to the Varkon Dominion. The Empire fell silent. Entire fleets gathered to hear his report. Millions of soldiers stood frozen as his words echoed through their halls. He said only one sentence: do not ever go near Earth. And with that, fear reached every star, every empire, every species. No one knew exactly what humans were. A hidden empire, a silent predator, a sleeping giant. But one thing became clear: Earth was not harmless. Earth was the snare, and humanity was the hunter behind it.